Hello, everyone. Welcome to Webacy Talks, where we interview hackers, founders, and notable voices in the space on the topics of safety and security. Today, we got to sit down with Corey at ENS and hear how ENS is shaping the social landscape for Web3, their new rebrand, and so much more. You're definitely going to want to listen to this interview in its entirety. We hope you enjoy. Well, Corey, thanks so much for joining us to Webacy Talks. I
All
know
right.
that what we've done here at Webacy Talks is interviewed hackers and founders and continuing to do so. I would love to know, set the stage to what ENS is. I think most people know what ENS is. If they
Yeah.
don't, I think they would really love to hear it kind of from your point of view, being in the ENS ecosystem and what you've done. So I'll shoot it off
Yeah.
over to you.
Yeah. Great. And Jordan, so thank you so much for having me here. I think what you guys are doing at Webacy is such a critical component of our industry and of our space, and it needs to be elevated, focusing on safety and security. On our side, Nick Johnson is the founder of ENS, but wanting to solve a problem of usability. Right. So those of us who have been in the space for a decade or so remember how cumbersome it was dealing with these complex hexadecimal addresses.
Hmm.
And ENS is a simple solution. You put human readable names on top of your cryptocurrency wallet so that you don't have to deal with messing with the complicated hexadecimal addresses. So that's really the gist of ENS. It simplifies interacting in Web3 and in blockchain.
That's awesome. Well, that was a simplistic answer. I know we'll
There
kind
you
of
go.
deep dive into, what ENS is, but I think that's the beauty of it. Of ENS, people see crypto as this complex thing to interact with, and ENS was
Hmm.
actually the first thing that I was able to, really like understand of saying, okay,
Yes.
this super long hexadecimal wallet address. How am I supposed to remember that? But my
Right. Right.
friend sent me their ENS and said, "Hey, I don't remember what it was. It was like I'm awesome.et, something like that." And I was like,
Hmm.
wait, it like that clicked for a second. And I was like,
That's
wait a
right.
second, there's more to this kind of cryptocurrency. And then the rabbit hole just opened, and now
Yeah.
I'm working
Yeah.
at a security company.
Yeah.
Crypto. So
Incredible. And that's what we've seen. ENS has actually been a gateway for so many people. If you're
mhm.
on the outskirts and you're like wondering what is going on with this crypto Web3 thing, and then you see a domain name, something that you're familiar with because you've used Yahoo, you've used Gmail, Google.com. So you're familiar with this concept of domain address. But now this is one that, hey, you can actually own. It's yours. Doesn't belong to Google, doesn't belong to anybody else, but it's yours. And it can also function as your identity, right? So first
Mm.
use case was simplifying crypto transactions using human readable names. And then it has merged to this identity play where people are using it as their handle on Twitter, on X. And a lot of other protocols are actually, or social protocols are just not building something from scratch, but just using ENS as their identifier, like Forecaster and Workcast. And so, so many things that you can do with this particular protocol. But we do think that ENS is a gateway for so many people. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is making sure that folks can have a safe, simple, and secure way to interact with blockchain and with Web3. And the first step to take, I think, is to get an ENS name.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know you kind of touched on this as well. So whenever ENS started, did you guys see this vision of kind of a, almost a social layer to what ENS would become? Of, like you said, of
Mm.
adding it to Twitter usernames. It's just become so synonymous. I know people by their ENS now. I mean, Corey
Yeah.
Dottie,
Yeah.
Brantley
Yeah.
Dottie,
Yeah.
Vitalik Dottie. I mean, you just know these people, and I'm synonymous with the Dottie at the end, not even
Yes.
really realizing it's an ENS, right?
Right.
And so when this was started, did you guys see kind of it blossoming into really just kind of an on-chain social layer, or is that kind of what the vision of ENS is going to become?
So initially there wasn't any idea that it would turn into this phenomenon that it has
Hmm.
become, But as you saw, it's something that clicks, and so people gravitated toward it. And then on top of that, this community, this passionate community of people has been generated around ENS. and so it kind of snowballed over the last 7 years, since the inception. So I don't think initially there was a concept that it would become a social layer, but that actually evolved as the proliferation of digital identities and that conversation started um, to catch some traction. But going forward, absolutely, ENS is going to be that particular social layer. And you mentioned Brantley; he's created the Ethereum Follow protocol,
Yep.
which is leveraging ENS and using ENS, and it's going to be a great tool for builders to use, capturing ENS social graph.
Yeah, yeah, that was I got to chat up with Brantley about the EFP, protocol, and hopefully we'll have him
Yeah,
on the Webacy talks. But it
yeah.
just kind of deepened the social layer of what ENS is. And I mean, you
Hmm.
remember 2021, 2022 NFT craze, when
Yes, yes,
Puma.eth came out. I mean,
yes.
it was like, oh my
Woo,
gosh,
bananas.
Puma.eth, like Puma has a .eth. This is crazy.
Yeah.
All of these companies started to have a .eth, and that really
Mhm.
solidified them as, a player in the blockchain space. And it's just
Yep.
kind of what a testament, to what ENS has built.
Yep.
Something, of course, that we think about over here at Webacy a lot, of course, is safety and security, right? And
Hmm.
so we're seeing, Vitalik, it's VIT, but a lot of users will do that VLT, right? And they'll have that
Yeah.
.eth. And so that's something that we're always thinking about. How are you guys thinking? Because, like I said, ENS is becoming this de facto social layer to the Ethereum ecosystem. How are you all
Hmm.
thinking on safety and security in terms of, making sure the spoofing of ENS names by that
Yes.
I and L, that could look different to other people? And I mean, there's been
Yes.
scams in the
Yes.
space. So, long-winded question. Really, what are you guys thinking about safety and security internally and also externally?
Yep, yep. So one of the things that we worked on a couple years back is name normalization.
Mm,
So making sure that there's a consistent standard like across the world for people who are registering domain names to lessen the likelihood that you'd have those kind of spoofing attacks, right? So that's one. I think the biggest change recently is I wanted to be able to use ENS in the real world, if you will, and find more opportunities to use ENS in the real world, and possibly making the bridge from blockchain into more traditional organizations. And so one of the integrations that we had recently was with Dentity. I don't know if you've seen the Dentity integration,
yep.
but now when you go to an ENS profile, you were able to verify that this person that you've only known by their .eth. So if you look at Corey.eth, it seems like it's me. There's some hints and clues that yeah, this is probably Corey Whitaker from ENS Labs, but you don't really have certainty of that as you
Yep.
interact on chain. But now with the identity integration, there's a check mark by my name now because I've been able to verify with real world identity. So there's a checkbox by my name, a little icon by my name that this is a real human and not a bot. And then I'm able to verify my Twitter handle, um, my Discord, my Telegram. So now you have some sense of security that this is actually who you think it is that you're interacting with. Um, so as far as security is concerned and safety or interacting person to person on chain, I think that's a major integration that I think that we don't even know what's going to become of it. I'm excited to see how builders use this integration in the future.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's really exciting because it's also, OpenSea added their kind of account profile. They have the same issue
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
how do you know what OpenSea account you're following, right? And they
Hmm.
added the
Hmm.
Twitter account integration, the Discord, and I think that really has solidified, you able to corroborate, who you say you are because you actually had to link your Twitter, you had to have,
That's
you
right.
had to have
That's right.
access.
Yeah.
The other thing,
And
oh, go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, the other thing that we've done that has been much more offensive, proactive, is our general counsel, Alex Urbellis, whom you should probably have on Webacy Talks at some point as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Very interesting guy, very interesting perspective, a hacker lawyer, right? Um, but he has this program where he is able to scan the traditional DNS on a daily basis and identify permutations of ENS, with all those little tricks that these scammers try to do.
Yep.
And so we get this list, and we contest them,
Mm.
and we block them, and we do everything that we can to take those domains down.
Yeah.
Because what you're seeing happening a lot is you'll have fewer attacks on a particular blockchain contract. But what people will do is they'll use like these fake websites where then people go to, they think it's the real deal. They'll input their wallet, their seed phrase, et cetera, and then all of your NFTs and tokens and so forth are gone. So last year we did this huge we call it a sting operation, where we were able to just take like 30 odd domains that a scammer had put up in an attempt to try and attack the ENS community.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, able to take that all in one fell swoop using a tool of the traditional DNS called UDRP. And then furthermore, what we've done is we've also have this anything that we see that's suspicious with regard to other partners like Webacy and Coinbase and others. If we see suspicious domains, we'll forward this information onto them as well. So we're trying to be much more proactive and going on the offensive and going after scammers out there.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. In terms of, and your point of kind of actually blocking domains, and this might be, you might not have the answer today, but the decentralization versus centralization standpoint,
Yeah.
where's the line drawn into a permissionless ecosystem of someone saying Vitalik VLT, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a muddy and gray line to a lot of people of saying, in this permissionless, decentralized ecosystem, is that
Yeah.
allowed, right? Like,
Yeah.
is someone using that maliciously? So, how are you guys? Because I know ENS is decentralized at its heart, and so
Yes.
how are you all thinking about that? Both combating kind of security concerns while simultaneously keeping the ethos of decentralization, at your company
Mm-hmm.
core.
Yeah. And we think the foundation, the baseline of decentralization is super important, and we're not going to bend on that. Yeah. But tools like Webacy, we hope that more people, Webacy and Dentity, we hope that more people will use these tools to protect themselves, right? So it's kind of putting a little bit of the onus and responsibility on the user. Um, so with regards to identity, for example, you know, I do see in the future people who are interacting on a regular basis on chain will want to have some type of verification of and proof of personhood, right, and proof of identity. And you know, going forward, I probably might not interact with a particular contract unless it's named and verified. You can name ENS contracts, by the way.
Yep.
Um, Remember that.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm probably not going to. I unless I get going to another DGen vendor, which I haven't done in many years, and I don't recommend. Um, but yeah, you're probably going to have an ENS name. Probably going to have it verified in some way in order for people to trust that you are who you say you are. Um, we have this culture of like aping in as quickly as possible when we have these new drops and so forth. But we have to push this sense of responsibility. Those of us who are leaders in this space, um, as well. While it's fun to ape into things and have a little DJ in action. Um, as they say in the traditional world with gambling, like don't gamble with money you can't afford to lose.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that, whenever I joined the space, I heard two things. Number one was Dior, do your own research. Probably heard that
Hmm.
acronym.
Hmm.
And then
Yep.
simultaneously, it was you're not a part of the space until you get scammer hacked. That's just something that's going to happen. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and looking into the space, like that was me first joining the space, kind of dipping my finger in the water of crypto. And I was like, wait,
Hmm.
I gotta get scanned. I have to lose money to actually like understand what the space is.
Yeah.
And that's something, here at Webacy, we're of course changing that narrative of we now have a tool called Dior. So you can do your own
Hmm.
research without reading contract ABI code.
Hmm.
We do
Yes.
all that for you, and then we actually kind of return the risk factors and things like that. And then
Yeah.
simultaneously, we also have, tooling to say, hey, you don't have to get scam or hacked. Connect your wallet, understand, what you're doing, understand your wallet health, all of those things.
Right. Right.
And I think safety and security, I mean, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of safety and security is one of those things where people don't think about it until it happens to them. And that's what we
Yes.
hear at Webacy. I mean, it's the same thing with your health, right? You don't think about all the health concerns and you go eat whatever you want. But then when that health concern happens, you're like, oh, I've got to shape up. I've got to go to the gym. I've got
Yes.
to start eating healthier. And so that's something that we always say of we want to get ahead of someone getting scammed or hacked. And it sounds like you
Hmm.
guys are doing that as well. We're always on the
Hmm.
offensive. I think being on the defensive is good. Like we have defensive tooling that you can recheck. But being
Yes.
on the offensive is always better than saying, hey, oh, you got scammer hacked. Okay, come to us then. No, you should come
Hmm.
to
Right.
Webacy and other tooling to understand before that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know safety and security is a huge topic, and we could probably spend, hours and hours talking about it.
Hmm.
But something I did want to talk about too is, ENS as an ecosystem we just stepped out, and a lot of people are saying we're in a bull market, but we just stepped out of a pretty down time in crypto. I would say I think we can all
Hmm.
agree on that. How was that like for you all? What was that
Hmm.
like in terms of weathering the bear, as people call it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what was that like internally? How did you guys reshape? I know you guys just had a big rebrand. Was that kind of part of that during the
Hmm.
bear, things like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say a lot of builders during the bear. I'm sure you saw this on Twitter, on X, like keep building. If there's a bear market going on, put your head down and keep building so that you're prepared when we come out the bear. And that's sort of what we continue to do at ENS. Luckily, the product, the service is something that rides the business cycle. So whether the market is down or whether the market is up, people will still need to use their ENS name. And
Yep.
people were so, I think when the beer was at its worst, we were still selling domains, you know. And I think we're one of the only crypto projects that have done consistently well over the last several years because it's a real product, it's a real service, it works today. Right. It's
Exactly.
not sort of like this future roadmap thing. It works today and it's usable today with more and more use cases and more integrations like each and every month. So we
Exactly.
put our heads down over the last couple years with the focus on how do we help improve the user experience first at ENS, and then how do we influence the broader ecosystem? So part of the rebrand, as you mentioned, was trying to make ENS much more accessible. If you remember the last website, um, there was a lot to be desired for the last website. I
Yeah.
remember before I got my first ENS name, I would go to the site and then leave, go to the site and then leave. But this particular site, one, it's beautiful. The colors are inviting. The concept of welcoming people to the new internet. So we're kind of focused on that distinction, and then the site is much more directed in helping people navigate. So if you're a builder, this is where you go. If
Hmm.
you're interested in purchasing a domain, this is where you go. If you're interested in governance or being a part of the community, this is where you go. So it's much more explanatory, much more welcoming, and we did it in order to prepare for the bull, right? Because I didn't want to send people to a site that they would just click out of.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we've got a lot of great feedback on the rebrand. We worked with Adam Ho and our internal marketing team. They did a great job. It was a year in the making. We interviewed and worked with lots of people in the community to get feedback on it. And the final product we're quite pleased with.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the narrative of the new internet. I mean, it really
Hmm.
is a fresh life into the ENS
Yeah,
ecosystem. So,
yeah,
last
yeah.
thing that we always like to or always like to ask to kind of leave it off is what's in the pipeline. So I know ENS has been
Mm-hmm.
around since, gosh, forever.
Yeah.
As long as pretty much the Ethereum ecosystem has been alive. And so
Hmm.
what's next? What's next for you guys? What is a 10-year goal as you guys continue to new internet vision?
Yes, yes. So this last year has been just monumental
Mhm.
for us. Starting out the year with the GoDaddy integration to where pretty much every one of your traditional TLDs now is an ENS name and can function just like a traditional ENS name. Right? So that was a huge integration. We already mentioned the identity
Mhm.
integration, and then it was subdomain summer. So base launched base names, and there are millions of people now using base.eth subnames, Linnea.eth subnames, uni.eth subnames.
Yep.
So that that aspect of our protocol, the subdomains has really taken off. What we still do have some issues to resolve with the core protocol. So over the next several years, what you're going to see is us moving toward an L2. And
Mm.
this will be the biggest news over the next few years. We do want to make sure that this protocol is cheaper for people to use. Gas has always been an issue with ENS names, especially when you want to like add your crypto addresses and you got to pay X amount of dollars worth of gas. If you want to add your avatar, you got to pay gas. So we want to drive that cost down as
Mm.
much as possible and create a chain where people who are building identity related products and services, ENS related products and services, where you will have a playground, you will have a sandbox now on which to build on which to build that. So the L2 piece is going to be the biggest um, over the next few years, and you're going to continuously see stuff I'm so excited about. More businesses, more partners, more integrations, um, and major organizations in the world using ENS. But one of the things I'd like to say is, we started out as the Ethereum name service, and now we're moving into being the everything name service for
Wow.
everyone.
Wow, that's an amazing narrative. We cannot wait to see what ENS is going to be, and I mean, it's a testament to what ENS has done since 2017. It's going to continue to be, decades to come. So, I just want to say thank you so much for joining Webacy Talks. I mean, this was just an amazing talk. I'm super excited. I can't wait to go like purchase more ENS names and get all the .eth names. But Corey, I really appreciate it. I mean, this was a
Yeah,
fantastic
Jordan, pleasure, man.
conversation.
Yeah,
I know we'll meet again. So
you bet, you bet.
thanks, Corey.